welcome to the 11th episode of Back at the Ranch Expedition Online's After Show. I am your host, Danny Knaub. Here with me is the latest explorer who was voted out, Owie. Owie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I have to say, I'm really excited to talk to you because you were one of my favorites. I'm probably not supposed to be saying any of that.
It's okay.
But I thought you were such a blast to watch. I thought that you were so strong in the challenges. So I'm really super excited to kind of like get in your head a little bit and hear what you were thinking the whole time. But let's go to the beginning. So just in general, what was it like when you first found out that you were going to be in the first season of Expedition Online?
It was awesome. I was super excited. I was a little confused because I had no idea what it was, but I assumed it was something like that show, Survivor. But I was super excited just to be picked for something and to be a part of it. So it was just very, very exciting.
That's right, because now that I'm thinking about it, wasn't it just described as sort of like an online social strategy game?
Yeah, just like an online social game. Exactly. So, I mean, if I saw it on Tyson's Instagram, so I was like, well, it has to be something, that's associated with Tyson. So I went for it, and I'm glad I did.
Well, speaking of, so obviously we're all Survivor fans here,
Mhm.
and you have like the two mega gods of Survivor. So you have Boston Rob and Tyson. They
Mhm.
hand pick who's going to play Expedition Online. So that first night when we're watching everyone's audition videos, Boston Rob picked you. So like, what was that like? Because I mean, I was jealous.
It was super awesome just to hear, like we say, like just to hear them say our names. Like it's really cool. It's an awesome thing that they've seen us, they know who we are. Um, it's super cool. But then you think about it and they're just people too, they're just humans, they're just living their life. So super cool, super exciting. And we actually got to talk to Rob, so that was awesome.
I know. Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that first night was kind of crazy because obviously a lot happened in a short period of time, but
Yeah.
your entire party is chosen by Rob, and you
Mhm.
essentially had like 2 hours sort of to really get to know each other, find out that this is all done on video. What was your sort of overall take on Team Rob? I mean, did you think that you guys are a solid team? Were you vibing with people pretty early? Like, what was the sort of initial thoughts?
Yeah, that first night that we kind of started just getting to know each other, I immediately vibed with Jess and Sam just because they seemed the most similar to me in personality. I also vibed with Brandon. And overall, I did think that we had a fairly strong team. I mean, we had a bunch of very likable people, some athletes. I mean, Molly was like an encyclopedia of Survivor. So I thought we had a pretty good chance. But that clearly went out the window pretty quick.
Like, so I don't even know how to say it in like a play way, but like you guys were decimated.
We were
It was
awful. We were
4 in a
awful.
row, and it just was like as a spectator watching, like I never made sense to me because I'm like, I don't understand like what is happening here. So I know we talked a little bit before we hit record that it felt like those first few votes were sort of easier.
Mhm.
Teresa left that early Zoom pretty fast. Trey
Mhm.
did the same thing. I think that painted very easy targets. You had someone
Mhm.
like Bobby who sort of came to everybody and said, please vote me out. He was handling some
Mhm.
family stuff on the side. So just, and I also want to talk about the compass, but before we get there, like, was the you, Jess, and Sam trio, was that sort of like strong and just remain strong? Because obviously I think Brandon kind of slid in there at some point. Like, how would you, what were the dynamics before we headed to that first swap?
Well, it was Jess, Sam, and I were very, very, very close, very strong. And we wanted to keep Brandon along, but we all three of us knew the game that Brandon was playing. We knew that Brandon was close with me, Brandon was close with Sam, Brandon was close with Jess. So we all had that in the back of our minds, and we knew at some point we were going to have to get rid of Brandon because that's dangerous. Um, but we didn't want to do that yet. So when we got to the swap, and we'll get there, It kind of sucked that we were stuck with Jake instead of Brandon.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think in those early days, the other big thing to make note of was the compass. So I
Mhm,
know that up to the second day, the lean to chat became the lean clue. I
mhm,
think that everybody sort of figured that out, that a clue was there pretty fast. And then it was a mad
mhm.
dash to figure out how to find it. Um, how did you do in the search? And did you know immediately who had it, or when did that knowledge sort of come out? Because I know that that's a topic too I want to touch on
Right,
just because of how dramatic it was.
right. So I got in the lean clue and I saw the sign that said, message Andy for clue, I think is what it said. So I immediately am like, Andy, what's my clue? And he sends it to me. And at that point, we didn't know how the compasses were hidden. So we were like, what the heck? So I'm kind of talking to everybody about it. It seems like everybody somehow got the clue in one way or another. I ended up in a room with Trey. It was just me and Trey. And Trey was like, oh, I know where it is. So he pulls it up on YouTube and he's like, oh, someone already found it. Well, he told me where it was. So I immediately went, sent the same thing to Andy, said it was already claimed. But I did not know that, I didn't know if Trey was playing me and he had actually found it first. So I didn't know if Trey had it or not. And then other than that, I had no idea who had it. And then the days following that, the day following that, I was convinced. I had convinced myself that Jake had it, and Jake had convinced himself that I had it. So it was a big mess. And Jake didn't have it at all. Molly had it, which was like crazy to me. I did not think in any way that Molly had it. I totally underestimated her.
Well, and it's funny because you just like a few minutes ago said having Molly on your team was exciting because she was an encyclopedia of
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. So it is fascinating because
Mm-hmm.
anybody really were pointing fingers towards her. It was definitely like
Yeah.
you, Jake, Trey, like kind of were the ones that had the most heat on them about it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously when Bobby's leaving, Molly shares that she has the compass, and Brandon's approach to this is sort of a fascinating one because, like, on the moderator side and spectator side, people thought it was like a little too aggressive. Like, we understand it was gameplay, like, so we're not, we understand it's gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
but it was aggressive, and to watch was aggressive.
Very
So, what
aggressive.
was because you were in on it because you were trying to get her to pass it to you. So, what was your thought? Like, were you like all about that plan? Were you like, oh, this is a little bit too much, or what were you thinking?
I was not about that. I was in there when he was doing that, when Brandon was approaching Molly that way. But he kept trying to say, oh, give it to Owie, give it to Owie. And if you go back and watch, I never, ever, ever, not once was like, yeah, give it to me. Because I did not want that thing, but I didn't want to outright be like, no, don't give it to me. But looking back on it, well, she shouldn't have even said that she had it. That
Oh,
was the mess
totally.
to begin with. So it ended up that Brandon kind of shot all of us in the foot because the compass ends up going to Jake, which I was happy that it wasn't going to me because I didn't want that. I didn't want that extra target on my back. Um, which proved in the future that happened to Jake.
Hmm.
So I didn't want the compass, but I wasn't going to tell Brandon to like, whoa, slow down.
All
So
because it was your birthday. Everyone's like, give it to her.
I know because it was my birthday.
Well, it's interesting because, yeah, because I talked to Brandon a lot about that because watching it, Jake was sort of in your group. I mean, clearly it
Mhm.
wasn't in like the main alliance, obviously, but it
Mhm.
felt like he was good enough with you all that I was surprised that Brandon, once Molly left, that and Jake had it, that Brandon was still like, you really should give this to Oe. Because I was like,
Mhm.
like it felt a little too obvious at that point. Um,
Yeah.
but obviously, Jake has it, or Jake had it. He has since used it.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
before we get into the swap, just how are you emotionally after losing four times and they were pretty emotional and kind of crazy crossroads. Like, so before we get to the swap, like just overall, were you like praying for a swap? Were you like, can we just merge already? Like, what was going on in your
Mhm.
mind?
A little bit, yeah. I was very frustrated that we were losing because I'm clearly, as has since been proven, I'm not a good loser. I don't like to lose. So the fact that we had kept losing over and over and over again, I was just like, what the heck is going on? I was so mad at myself after the ping pong ball in the cup challenge because I mean, I performed terribly on that challenge. And when we were practicing, I was doing pretty well. So I was angry at myself for that challenge. So yeah, so mentally a little bit drained, hoping for a swap, but also knowing that when we did swap, we were going to have to seriously fight to stay in the game because we were just going down with we were going into the swap with the numbers just not on our side.
No. And so be it, luck is sort of on your side. So we have a swap
Mhm.
and you're finally in the numbers. So you go from team
Well,
one.
before that,
Oh, yeah.
so right before that was when I think this was right before the swap was when Andy comes to us and says, "Owie, the spectators voted for you this advantage. You get to choose someone to go into a room with." And I don't know. He said, "You have 15 seconds to decide." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I was like, "All right, Sam, let's," without even thinking through the advantage, because if I had thought through that, I would have kept myself in a room with the majority of the people. Because obviously Sam and I were in this room by ourselves. They could have easily said, "Well, let's put it on them." So
Yeah.
I did not think clearly. I did not think that through as clearly as I should have. And that's where Sam and I may have lost this game. Was in that room, we were deciding that we should go for Jake. And the last we had heard was Brandon wanted to go for Jake as well. Well, meanwhile, Sam and I are in this room. In this other room, Jake and Brandon are having this huge blowout that we have no idea about. So we go to the crossroads. Sam and I are still like, yeah, let's swing for the fences. Let's get Jake out here. And things did not go our way that night, which we had discussed. Sam and I had discussed that. We said, if this doesn't work, this could possibly ruin our relationship with Jake and totally derail our game. And that is what happened.
Well, and I'm actually glad you did
But
because I wanted to talk about that. And I'm mad that I kind of
mhm,
glossed over it really fast. Yeah, I mean, that's what anyone who's watching that, like, this game is hard. And a lot of times you're having to
mhm,
think on your feet super fast. You have 15 seconds.
mhm.
And yes, I think
Yeah.
that if you had chosen to send like Molly and someone else away and you could have discussed it, it would have had a different, ending.
Yeah.
Whether that would have affected things down the road, we will never know. But it's
Mhm.
interesting because I do think that, it felt like Brandon was already kind of pushing Jake a lot with the like give up the compass to Oe, that I
Mhm.
think Jake was already starting to like, not trust that side a little bit. But let's talk about the vote. So you get to that vote that night and it's 3 on Molly, 3 on Jake. Okay. So then you're immediately doing a revote. I don't think you have any time to really speak at that point. I think you have to just immediately go to the
Mm-mm.
revote. And then with the revote, it's 2 Molly, 2 Jake. So we're just, again, locked. So
Mhm.
as a spectator, so I want, fill me in. Just as a spectator, it felt like Molly was sort of like throwing in the towel a little bit by saying like, you guys, like, you're probably better off without me, vote me out. Um,
Yeah.
but is there a part of you that wishes like that you and Sam maybe, because if you were going to swing and you already swung, did you feel
Right.
like maybe you should have been more vocal and been like, Brandon, here's why you need to vote out Jake? Like,
Mhm.
let's just get Jake out. Let's flush the compass. Let's start. I mean, was there any, because I don't think you guys really said too much, correct?
Right. Well, after the tie vote, the second tie vote, Sam immediately came out and was like, "Jake, I'm going to say I voted for you, and I'm totally willing to send Molly." And at that point, I was like, "Well, shoot, what am I going to do now? If
Right.
I push hard for Jake, that's going to even ruin my relationship even more with him, because at that point, I don't think that Brandon was going to budge on Molly, because I think Brandon wanted that compass. He wanted to know where that compass was in the game. Um, So I don't think that there's much that we could have done. We probably could have pushed harder for Jake, but I don't know if that would have changed the outcome.
That's true.
Mhm.
No, thank you for explaining that.
Oh yeah.
So then we go into the swap, and it feels on paper like it's looking better for you guys. So from Team Tyson, from the original Team Rob, it's you, Sam, Jake, and Jess are now in the majority against Doc's Andrea Qua, and then
Mhm.
lone Brandon gets swap screwed, and he is alone with basically the rest of OG Team Tyson. So
Mhm.
the swap happens. Are you guys like throwing a party? You just like, finally, we're like in the majority, or how are you feeling?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Honestly, during the swap, I was so scared because I think I was one of the last ones to choose. And so
Yeah,
former team Tyson was already all on one tribe. And I was like, oh my God, if I get on there, there's no chance for me. So I was very relieved that I wasn't Brandon in that situation. So we were happy about that. We had the majority, but I think Sam and I also had it in the back of our minds that Jake would probably flip on us at some point, especially because of what we had just done
yeah.
to him at Crossroads.
So we go into the next episode where you're bouncing a book on your head with a cup. You do amazing.
Thank you.
I think I wrote down that you lasted an hour and 48 minutes.
That's correct. Yeah.
Insane. That is
Yeah. That
so.
was insane.
Yeah. So obviously, though, what's not shared is that this is going to be a double crossroads. So
Mm-hmm.
both parties are going. Um, your party still doesn't technically win, as frustrating as that had to have been. However, you obviously won individual exemption, so you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting pretty here. Talk to me a little bit about how it became Andrea, because I know that Jake got a vote, it looks like, and Sam also got. So it looks like Sam and Andrea tied, and then there was the revote. So talk to me a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about what was happening, because it should have been like we're saying, it should have been easy. It should have been like
Or
full
two.
night
Yep.
and like let's get out an OG Team Tyson. So talk to me
Yep.
about that night.
It should have been that clear. It should have been a 4-2 vote, easy. However, Jake had flipped on us, which we had predicted and we knew was a possibility. We had really hoped that he wouldn't, but he did. So he had gone to Docs and Qua and Andrea and said, I want to get Sam or Owie. Well, I happened to have exemption that night. Um, so it ended up being a tie. So I'm trying to play through this again in my head. Did we have 8? No, we only had 7.
You had 7, yeah. So one lone person voted for Jake.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I remember now. So that was a heated crossroads.
Yeah.
At that tribal count, or at that crossroads, we didn't think that we did not know that Qua had a compass. Jake did have the compass. We knew that because he had the one from our original camp. So Jake had the compass. Qua had a compass that nobody knew about. So we Sam, and Jess were all voting for Andrea, and Jake, Docs, Andrea, and Qua were all voting for Sam. So Sam should have gone that night. However, there was one thing that I said, and at the time I regretted saying it. Someone had said something about, that was the one where Brandon was trying to get
Yeah.
Jake to give him the compass. So
Just,
Brandon had been holding up like pictures of Qua, and he
yeah.
was like, vote Qua, vote Qua, vote Qua. And that spooked Qua a little bit.
Mhm.
Because I was like, well, why is Brandon saying to vote me? Then Andrea had said something like, at this point, I'm ready to do whatever as long as it's not me. And I, in return, said, well, would you vote for Qua? And that really spooked Qua. So he ended up playing that compass. Jake played his compass for him.
Yep.
Qua played his compass for himself. So then it was 3. And Qua also put a vote on Jake, which was really weird.
Yeah. Do we know why?
Well, I think that I'm not sure why he put it on Jake.
No. Okay.
Because Jake ended up playing the compass on himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But so Qua played his compass for himself. Jake played his compass for himself. and Qua threw a vote on Jake. So it was 3-3-1. That's right.
Yep.
And then there was a revote, and Docs ended up voting for Andrea. So it was 4-2, 4-1, I think, something like that.
It looks like it ended up being 3-2.
3-2. There you go.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I mean, I talked to Sam a little bit about it 2 nights ago or last night, I can't remember, but what did you make of Brandon's use of the dry erase board? I mean, did you think there was even a world in which Jake was going to pass it on to him? Do you think that, I mean, obviously it worked in a certain way because it did get Quad to sort of burn his compass. Jake burned his compass. He didn't really technically have to play it. So what were you guys thinking as that happened? Because that was unique, because usually one tribe does not get to sit on another person's crossroads, but this one we did.
Right. I was thinking, thank God I am not in danger tonight. Is what I was thinking. So it was crazy. Honestly, I could just like sit there and be quiet because I didn't want to stoke the fire in any way. I just wanted to kind of lay back. I was safe, let them do their thing. But that was crazy. And Brandon's back was against the wall. You know, that was all he had. He had nothing to lose. And I feel terrible for him because he really wanted to play this game, and he would have been good at it. A little aggressive, but he would have been good at it.
A little. No, I actually really enjoy talking to him because he's really smart, and like just listening to him talk through like every decision, every thought, I mean, it was really fast. Like he's a good player, and if there is, you know, sort of like an all-star season, I could see someone like him possibly coming in, just because he was a really smart player. So the swap doesn't last very long, and you guys, you know, we do the double crossroads, and then we immediately merge the next time. So we're merging. Are you? Well, I mean, you know, I think anyone who watches Survivor, obviously, you're all playing to win, but there is that something special about making merge. You're like, okay, I feel good.
Yes.
I at least accomplished.
I think everybody's. Yeah, I think everybody's relieved. They're like, oh, at least I made the merge. At least I made the jury. And usually at a merge, there brings, you know, new light. People are willing to make some big moves because especially that OGT team Tyson, they hadn't played at all hardly. So they were ready to make some big moves, and we were kind of banking on that. Just knowing that that's what the merge tends to bring. You know, the merge tends to bring just a new fresh game.
Yeah, no, you actually said it very, very well, because obviously the first challenge is the can challenge. And so talk to me about, I know that at one point you were given some money and then you chose to give money to Kimmy. So talk to me a little bit about why Kimmy.
Well, so Jake ended up winning that challenge. He gave 25, so he won $25, gave $25 to me because he said what I did the other night with the book and the water and standing on one leg. He said that was way, way harder, way more impressive than what he did that night. So he gave the $25 to me. So using that logic that he had provided already, I said, well, if you're going to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to Kimmy because Kimmy beat me at that challenge. I felt like that was a fair thing to do, and nobody would really judge that since Jake had already provided that logic for me.
No, that totally makes sense. And then Andy, of course, with his twists and turns, live at Crossroads basically says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but sort of says, would you all be willing to give your money back? And then somebody would get,
he says,
right?
Yeah, he said, so all three of you have to agree to return the money, and in turn, you have to unanimously decide on someone to get immunity or exemption.
And so you and Jake immediately go,
yeah, because I mean, I knew it was almost, it was going to be me that night almost. I know my name had been thrown around a lot, so immediately I was like, yeah, I'll do it, and I want the exemption. And Jake was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. And so Kimmy had said, yeah, I'll do it, but she couldn't decide if she wanted to give it to me or not. So she took a long time to decide on that. Eventually it was like, well, if you don't decide, we're going to spin a wheel. And she took her time, and Andy was like, let's just spin the wheel. So he spun the wheel, immunity went to Docs.
Yeah. So obviously you do get votes tonight. But
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about just the time leading up, because obviously with these live nights, they're way more insane. Anyone that's watching at home, because usually it's a 6:30 challenge and you have a few hours to kind of talk,
Mhm.
hop between rooms. When it's a live day, your challenge is around like 8 o'clock. It ends
Mhm.
and you're going to Crossroads about an hour or so. So
Mhm.
it's not a lot of
Mhm.
time. So what are you hearing this night? Who are you trusting maybe from the new team, from the OG team Tyson that you hadn't really worked with? Like what were
Mhm.
you sort of thinking going into this one?
So when we were still at our swapped tribes, Docs and Qua and the rest of us, Sam, Jess, Jake, and I, we had decided, if we were going to stay 6 strong at the merge, and they wanted to vote out Rachel, which was, I think, a test for Docs and Qua. They wanted to see if we were really loyal to them.
Hmm.
Um, so they had said, let's do Rachel the first vote. If Rachel has exemption, we'll go for Alex. Um, when we had gotten into camp, Alex and Kimmy were the first ones to be like, let's play. Like, let's play the game. Let's do something. Let's switch it up. So Alex and Kimmy that night had wanted to go for Tom because they knew Tom was a big strategic and physical threat.
Yeah.
So they wanted to go for Tom. Qua and Docs were still going for Rachel. And then at that crossroads, that's when Rachel kind of had a little blow up. And I think she kind of sealed her fate when she kind of went off that crossroads. So that made it easy for us. I mean, we didn't know what was going on. I think Jess and Sam both voted for Tom. Me and Jake voted for Rachel. Rachel ended up going. So it was just kind of a big mess. Votes were everywhere. And then obviously Tom and Rachel voted for me. So votes were all
Yeah,
over the
you ended up
place.
getting 3 votes. So I'm not sure who the third
Mm-hmm.
one was, um,
Can't
but
remember either.
correct. I mean, it was
Jordan. It was Jordan.
so having talked to Qua, again, I'm talking to everybody as they're exiting the game.
Mm-hmm.
He
Right.
made it seem like the reason for Rachel was because they thought Rachel was sort of Tom's secondhand person. So if you got rid of
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, Tom would kind of be alone and not
Mm-hmm.
really, I don't know, that's what he said. But I
Mm-hmm.
completely agree. I mean, it was interesting though, because, Tom, I think, was banking on let's just stay united. Like we can just kick
Mm-hmm.
these people off and we can have a grand
Mm-hmm.
old time and get to like top 8 and be fine. And so he said, it's still my favorite line just because I've only written one line down from Crossroads, which was like, the minority seems real comfortable, because you
Mm-hmm.
all were. I mean, you were all just sitting there. No one's like fretting. And, I think that both him and Rachel, I could see it at the same time, just kind of go like, this isn't
Wait
good.
a second. Yeah.
Like what is happening here?
Yeah.
Um, Another explosive Crossroads. Rachel went out guns blazing,
Yeah.
fire coming from her mouth. Um, I'm glad that I got a chance to talk to her because she has since like calmed down. She's like, I mean, it's a game.
Yeah.
We get heated. Like
Yeah.
it happens. It's totally
Yeah.
fine. But you did get some votes, which I'm sure you were scared about. So then going into Friday the 13th, this is my favorite challenge of all time, the scavenger hunt. So just
Mm.
say, like, did you have as much fun as I hope you did? Because it's such a good time.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was super fun. And that was one we were not expecting at all. So it was
Yeah,
like a surprise. We loved that one.
good. So this one seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like this is a pretty straightforward day because obviously Tom's voted out. Tom was
Mhm.
sort of lumped in with Rachel. So it felt like the merge was working out again in your favor. Like you guys were actually starting to pick off Team Tyson members. Were you feeling, because I know that you were still tight with Sam, still tight with Jess, were you feeling like you were getting a new alliance going with some others, or what was going on there?
A little bit, yeah. I think we were still aware that after they got off Tom, they would come right back to us because I think that's a pretty typical action steps, in a game like this, is they tend to flip flop. So they would get off threats here, then they're going to go to the other alliance, get off threats here, kind of go back and forth, which I do believe that they have been doing so far. They got off Tom, then me and Sam, now Kimmy, so they're kind of going back and forth a little bit. So yeah, it was straightforward that night. We knew it was going to be Tom, but in the back of our minds, we knew that it would eventually swing back and the target would be back on us.
Yeah. So
at least I was.
Yeah, no, totally. So before we get into the next night, I should have asked, obviously the way it works in Survivor is that once idols are played, they're traditionally placed back in the woods for people to find. You all had flushed prior compasses. Was there before, as of Friday the 13th, I know what happens on Saturday, we're gonna get into Saturday, but up until then, were you looking for compasses? Was there a lot of talk? Did you know of anyone who may have had one?
So I did not. I was looking for them. I can't remember how many clues had been out at that point. So we knew that first one had been found on YouTube, which is the forest of Expedition Online, the internet.
Yeah.
So we knew it was somewhere on social media. I know Andy had told me that they could be anywhere where you can comment on something. So I was looking. I had no luck finding any compasses. I was clearly terrible at it. But yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know anybody who had them. I had no idea that Jess would eventually have one, but I'm very happy that she did.
Speaking of, so we get into the stacking coins under butter knife. First of all, just shout out to like our competition team. Like they're just incredible with what they come up with. And I love that everything is sort of has that like Survivor DNA in it.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Which is like just super fun to watch. Again, like you and Kimmy, it's like something about like the spins and the holding things that you guys are always, you lasted here an hour and 3 minutes. And you were spinning.
This was the worst. This was the worst day for me by far, the worst challenge. I think I'm the queen of second place this season, which just makes me so mad. But this was the worst, absolutely worst challenge for me. I am very aware that I suffer from motion sickness.
No.
I knew that. If I knew going into the challenge, I probably would have taken some measures, like taken a Dramamine or something, which, I have on hand because I'm always motion sickness. I have to take it for car rides. But it was the worst. And I think I could see myself in the camera and I was turning white and then I was turning green. And it was just like, at that point, after Kimmy and I had gone so long in that challenge, I knew that whichever one of us lost that challenge was in trouble because we had proved that we were going to push ourselves obviously past sickness for me. I was going to push myself as far as I could go. And I knew that whichever one of us lost was in trouble. So I pushed as hard as I could.
I will say that, one of the smart things that you did was I think at some point you actually changed direction, which I don't know if that helped you at all or, but yeah, I didn't even think about like, cause you could still see yourself. So it's like you're spinning, but you're also looking and it's, yeah. I will say that the moderators, we have a chat where we're all talking during the game and as you guys are all talking and it was all just like, oh my gosh, is she gonna throw up? Like, what is happening? Yeah. Like, what do we do? What do we do? Yeah. So, but damn good effort. I mean, honestly, so you're a force. I'm obsessed with you. So
thank you. Thank you.
And I'm just dying to know from your point of view, because obviously I know Jess fills you in at some point that she has a compass, and I think she blatantly tells you that she's gonna play it on you. So fill me in a little bit, but from the spectator side as a mod, it felt like they were all just being very upfront with you. It was like, nope, we're putting votes on you, Owie. Nope, we're putting votes on you, Owie. Like it was like they weren't even trying to hide that they were coming after you. So talk to me a little bit about that and the Jess situation.
Yeah, that's how it was from my perspective too. They were very open, very clear, which I think went back to bite them in the butt because that way Jess knew exactly where to play that compass. If they had been a little more secretive, then they may have been able to play that somewhere else. But from my perspective, that was the only night in the whole game that I was emotional. And I think that I don't know if it was from that challenge and spinning and I didn't feel good after that, but I was very emotional that night. And I knew it was going to be me, and I felt like there was nothing I could do. I spent that whole night searching for a compass because no one would talk with me. The only people that would talk to me were Jess and Sam. Um, I tried to start conversations with other people, and they just completely blew me off. So I was like, well, there's nothing I can do but sit here and look for this compass, which had already been found. But that's how it seemed to me as well.
So, when did Jess tell you that she had the compass, and when did she say that she was going to play it for you? And did you believe her?
So Jess, this was probably, God, I don't want to say 5 to 7 minutes before Crossroads. Sam and Jess had been, jumping around in different rooms, talking to different people. I had basically been staying in the same room. No one wanted to talk to me. So Jess came in my room and she said, I have news. I have a compass. And then someone immediately jumped in our room and she left. So that is all that I heard from Jess. All that I heard was, I have a compass. And then she was gone. She was with Sam in a 2-person room. So I couldn't speak to them. So I had no idea. I mean, I figured that she was going to play it on me because that was it, but it was still nerve-wracking.
She actually didn't tell you that she was going to play it for you?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God.
Someone immediately jumped in, so we had to stop talking. I think it was Jake. Jake jumped in. We had to stop talking. She went into a room with Sam. And then literally someone said, yeah, she was talking with Sam. So I felt okay about it. Yeah. I felt pretty confident that she would play it on me.
Yeah.
Literally 15 seconds. Someone had already said, one of the moderators said, okay, let's go to Crossroads. I jumped in a room with Jess and Sam. I said, who do I vote for? They said Qua, and we went to Crossroads. And that was
yeah, anyone who's watching at home, like, please, you got to apply. I'm assuming there's gonna be another season. Like, this game is insane.
Yeah.
It is like, having played a version of it, like, you lose sleep, your heart's racing.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's crazy.
I'm still losing sleep because I'm playing like Monday morning quarterback. I'm like, well, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this?
Totally. So, okay, so before we get to the vote, I believe I can tell you, hopefully I don't get in trouble for this, but it was fascinating because I was moderating that day. So I was in a lot of the conversations, and Qua straight up was like, I'm pretty sure Jess has a compass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Jess is going to play this compass on Owie. And like, nobody wanted to believe him.
Yeah, no one wanted to do it.
No one wanted to believe him. And he's like, I really think that it's going to happen, that it's going to be played for her, and just nobody was listening to him. And so, because they had this whole elaborate plan of like who to vote for and, all this kind of stuff. So, okay, so we're at Crossroads, and everyone's talking, and it's very clear that it's you. Like, no one was even hiding that it was gonna be you going home. And it's like, let's get to votes. Votes are in. Does anyone want to play a compass? Your hero Jess comes through. I love a powerful female. It's my thing. Yes, get it, Jess. Plays it for you. All 7 votes, because they didn't even want to split the vote. All 7 votes are started, and Qua goes home. So that was Qua's life lesson, I believe, that day. So then, like, let's get a good night's sleep. Never mind. Let's just go back and like, let's do another challenge. An immediate Crossroads after. So like, you knew you had to win. Like,
I had to win because that was it. That was it. I had to win. Yeah.
Well, and the fact just hearing that, like, how sick you were and how you weren't feeling, it's impressive because you obviously won. It was a memory challenge, and how the hell you had a memory after spinning for an hour and 3 minutes on me. So you win. Sadly, there's no time to talk, and sadly I'm gonna say you're number 2, but I don't know if Jess was your 2. I don't know what you were really. Well, who were you thinking? Out of those 3, who were you the closest with?
We were all very close with each other. Everybody in the game kept saying that me and Sam were a 1-2. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I wanted to go to the end with Jess because I wanted a woman to win no matter what.
Cool.
And they might say that they were closer with each other. You know, I have no idea how they viewed it.
No, Sam was close to you.
But so that I felt honestly like we were just a trio.
Yeah. The way it
in
looked,
my opinion.
yeah, the way it looked at the beginning of the game was sort of like that you and Sam were a pair, and that Brandon and Jess were a pair. And so I think when Brandon was gone, it felt like, you know, you and Sam were the closer ones. But you and Jess were definitely getting tight. But I think Sam was very much for you, for sure.
Yeah.
So you win, amazing job, and
Thank you.
you all decide to vote for Jake, but obviously Sam goes home. Why Jake?
I like I said, that was my most emotional night in the game, and after 7 votes on me were wiped out, Jake had voted for me, so I was immediately like, oh well, I'm voting for Jake. If you guys want to vote for Jake, I'm voting for Jake, which was again not the most thought out move in my head, but in the moment I was very emotional. I was angry, so I was like, I'm voting for Jake.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know if anything would change because, you know, the other side had a system, you know, and because it was a double crossroads, you guys had no time. Like, I think you had, I don't even think you were not allowed to go into breakout rooms. So it was sort of like you were able to talk amongst yourselves, but, you know, but it was a really difficult situation. So sadly, Sam went home. So
that was the crossroads that it became very clear who was in charge, and Docs was in charge of that group.
Oh, that's right, because you guys were really on the Docs under the bus at that time, because you're just like more so.
And he was immediately after the challenge. He was holding up that number 4.
Yeah,
signaling to the other explorers that they were voting out Sam. I guess they had assigned number 4 to Sam. So, but Docs was definitely in control.
Yeah. So we get to the bad day. Bad day. So it's the Storytime Challenge, which is my least favorite. I suck at these challenges. Like, so bad at it. How did you do overall?
Awful. I did awful that one. Yeah. Not good at all.
Yeah. So Kimmy.
Yeah.
Challenge Beast Kimmy won that challenge too. So there are a lot of votes this one. So it is now clear that there's a lot of cracks. You know what I mean? And so obviously I think going in it felt fairly obvious it was going to be you, but seeing how many votes were cast with everybody, like, what was your strategy going into this? Because it's you and Jess at this point. So, like, what were you trying? What were you hoping worked? What seeds were you planting?
So, before that challenge, both Alex and Kimmy had come to me. Alex said, I want to get Kimmy out if she doesn't win. Kimmy said, I want to go for Alex. So, I wanted to work more with Kimmy because Kimmy is obviously a shield for me. You know, she's a challenge beast. She's going to take that heat off of me a little bit. So I immediately told Kimmy, I was like, well, Alex just told me that she wants to go for you. So that kind of started a whole bunch of stuff that night. We go to the challenge. Kimmy wins the challenge. We go back to camp and it's just like, it's chaos. And I think I had a plan with Kimmy, Jess, and we needed a 4th to get to vote for Alex that night. And then hopefully the other 4 would be splitting their votes, so that 4 would be enough on Alex if they had split their votes. I felt pretty confident in that plan because I really do think that Kimmy wanted to get Alex out that night. So I think it could have worked, but looking back, my problem was that I had told Jake this plan. Just throwing a Hail Mary, hoping that I could count on Jake. I said, Jake, Alex had thrown Jake's name out. So I said, Jake, Alex threw your name out. If we can get 4, we can get the majority if you vote with us for Alex. And I think he really did think about it for a minute, but then he immediately went back and was like, Kimmy flipped. So you can't trust Jake. The moral of the story is I can't trust Jake. But then obviously we went into Crossroads, and that was like the flipped Crossroads. Yeah. So that changed everything. And so many things I would have done differently looking back on it.
Well, and it's funny because like as we're talking, because I write down like how many votes everyone gets, and I'm sitting there going like, I knew you got voted out. I'm like, but you only have 1 vote. I'm confused, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's twice.
Yeah, that was the flip vote.
Did the twist affect Crossroads in any specific way, or?
Well, so that immediately in that twist, Docs came right out and was like, here's what we need to do, which for me, Docs has been playing the victim this entire game. You know, he has come to me and said, I don't have a shot at winning this game. I think you could win the game. And I'm like, well, why are you making yourself the victim? Why are you saying that you don't have a shot at winning this game? You know, why don't you own your moves? Why don't you be confident that you could win the game? So immediately that Crossroads, Docs comes out and he's the little puppet master, and he says, this is what we need to do. I'm going to vote for OE. 1 vote for Jess, everybody else votes for Jordan. And so I was like, do you guys not see that Docs is running the show right now? So we went to vote. They did that. There was 1 vote on me, 1 vote on Jess. Everybody else voted for Jordan, but I put my vote on Jess so that she would have 2 votes and she would be safe. Because I just felt like I could do that for her. She gave me the compass the night before. So I was like, well, I'm going to say that I'm voting for Alex, but I'm actually going to put my vote on Jess so that she would have 2 votes instead of 1. That way it wouldn't be between me and Jess. And after I got voted out, I don't know if I assume I could say this, but after I got voted out, Andy immediately told me, he was like, do you think there was any way you could vote for, or you could signal to Jess that you voted for her? And I was like, I don't think it would change anything. And they were like, it would have changed everything. Jess has a compass. And I was like, oh my God. So Jess had another compass. If I had just been like, Jess, I voted for you. You have 2 votes. You're safe. If you play the compass on me, whoever Jess voted for would have gone home because I would have been safe. And Jess's vote was on Docs. So it was a tie, 1-1, me and Docs. And if I could have told Jess that she was safe, she could have played her compass on me, Docs would have went home. I know, but I had no idea she had it. If she would have told me,
it's interesting because I'm surprised she didn't tell you.
Me too, a little bit.
I get it though, because like you like to have secrets in this game. You like to have something that's yourself, but it felt, because I know like in the mod chats, we're all just like, will she play for her? Like, will she play for her? So, so it's down to you and Docs, and obviously you go home. You went out with your head held high. We always appreciate people who don't go out like fingers raised, middle fingers raised.
Yeah. No, I'm not impressed by that.
So I feel like I might know the answer to one of these questions, but I'm still gonna ask it. So of the explorers who are remaining in the game, who are you rooting for? And B, who do you think has the best shot of winning? So it could be the same person or it could be different people.
I'm definitely rooting for Jess. I'm super thankful for the friendships that this, me and Jess and Sam, we're going to be friends forever. So
the best part of this whole experience, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm obviously rooting for Jess. I think she has a good shot, honestly, because she has that compass still. I'm happy that she still has that compass, because if she can make it through final 6, final 5 is the last time she can play it, and then possibly win, hopefully win a challenge. I think she has a good shot. If she makes it, she's winning for sure. Other than Jess, if Docs makes it, I think he'll win, but I don't think that I will vote for him.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. No, it's good to Oe, you know how I feel about you. Really like you. I've like really enjoyed this conversation. Do you have any like final thoughts or anything you want to share before we?
No, I mean, like I said when I left, this was super fun. I'm super grateful for it. I'm happy I did it. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I tell my students, my athletes, you win with grace, you lose with grace. So that's how I like to portray myself, and I just had a great time.
Well, we really enjoyed watching you. If you got a chance to play again, would you?
Yes, I would. Absolutely.
Good to know. People always say,
No doubt.
but like, give me a month. It's like,
No,
yeah, I need a few weeks off.
yeah.
But Oe, you were an absolute pleasure to watch, and thank you for being part of this. Now you're part of the jury. You have a huge task in rewarding somebody $1,000 in this game. This is like, we're down to the wire. I think we're down to, are we at 6 people now? I mean,
Yeah, we're at 6. We're at 6, yeah.
Getting close. So everyone who's watching at home, a lot of gameplay still to be had. And thanks again for tuning in. Oe, you were absolutely phenomenal, and look forward to getting to know you outside this game. I don't know if anyone shared, but there is a fun side to things where, I think once the game's over, you'll hopefully be introduced. But a lot of us who have all met and played these games have all just sort of, we hang out and we talk and we
little family
off the game. Just when you think your game is over, it's never over. Like March, and someone will be like, "But do you remember when like if you did that move, you could have done this?" And you're like, "I need a cocktail." Like, so
that's the other thing. Jess, the other night, she was pouring her wine. She was drinking her wine, and I was like, "Yes, Jess, let's go."
Well, you saw me in the chat. I was like, Jess is my spirit animal. Like that was me.
Oh yeah.
I would just have wine, and I would just be like, I need to calm down. Otherwise, I'm going to be like a nervous wreck. So. Anyway, Oe, thank you so much, and everyone at home, thanks for watching, and I'll see you. We'll see who gets voted out next. But this is an exciting game, so see you soon.